Hey everybody, happy Tuesday, and thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi with a detailed look at your, again, warm, windy, and most importantly, dry forecast for us in Denver and across Colorado for your day today and through really much of the rest of the week. We don't have much in the way of relief in sight from this just persistently dry and windy weather, but today and Friday in particular are going to be the worst of those fire weather days. So speaking of today, again, it's warm, it's windy. We're going to get up to around 80 degrees here in Denver. We're going to be close to our record high of 83. Don't think we quite get there, but today probably marks our second 80-degree temperature of the year here in Denver. And again, no real relief in sight from this persistently dry and windy pattern that we've been stuck in all month long. And it's looking increasingly likely that we're going to have our first snowless April since 2002. It's been 20 years since we've gone with zero snow in the month of April. That is looking increasingly likely to take place this month here in Denver. Red flag warning is essentially a fire weather warning that covers almost all of the state of Colorado. This is due to some very strong winds and a very dry air mass. So the reason why it is so warm in eastern Colorado today is because we've got these downsloping winds. And think about a kid going on a slide. That's what happens with those air particles as they come down off of the Rockies. They accelerate. So again, think of a kid going down a slide. Those air particles accelerate, and as they accelerate, they warm. So what you feel when you feel warm air, it's just really fast-moving air molecules. And again, when you've got that downsloping component to the wind, it means you get really warm temperatures and also generally pretty dry weather as well. And that is certainly going to be the case, unfortunately, for us today. So a couple things to keep in mind. Make sure you sign up for emergency alerts. For most of you, it means going on your smartphone and checking your settings and just making sure. I know with my iPhone that if you flick on allow emergency alerts, there's a little tab to allow you to do so. It does vary by county, but today is a good day to make sure that you have those emergency alerts because, again, we have the high risk for any fire that starts to spread very quickly. So, again, just please keep that in mind. I know it might be a little scary. I know a lot of us got the Marshall and NCAR fires pretty recently in mind, but unfortunately today is one of those days here, folks, where any fire that starts could spread quite quickly. And of course, avoid anything with a spark outdoors. By no means any sort of outdoor burning, cigarette butts, anything like that. Make sure that you don't have anything with a spark outdoors today. And also have a go kit ready to go in the event that you have to evacuate in short order. Now, this is, I think, a statistic that most people don't often think of, but about 80 to 85% of wildfires are caused by some form of human error. So on a day like today, if we're careful about it, we're probably going to avoid those worst consequences of these really dry and windy days. So folks, again, please just go back to some of those tips that I just mentioned. Make sure you avoid anything with a spark outdoors today with dangerous fire conditions in place. Already up to 61 in Denver, 74 in Lamar already, so certainly get up probably into the mid-80s, if not the upper 80s, into southeastern Colorado for our friends out there in Lamar, Prowers, Baca County. Somebody there is going to check in maybe close to 90 today. Mountains even at 10,000 feet, Leadville at about 50 degrees, and Grand Junction out on the western slope, a toasty 71 degrees. You got up to 78 out there in Grand Junction, again, for our friends out that way. You'll notice a few 80s popping on up around the metro this afternoon. Denver, we're going to call for a high of around 79. Wouldn't be surprised if we get to 80, 81 today. Again, probably a couple degrees shy of our official record, but no matter how you slice it, it is going to be on the warm side. This is about 15 degrees above where we should be for the middle of April, middle to end part of the month of April. Our average high this time of year is right around 63 degrees. Right now, those winds gusting on up to around 25 miles an hour. Some of the higher terrain. A few spots on the eastern plains. Burlington right there on the Kansas state line. 38 miles an hour in Baca County. Springfield already checking in with a 49 mile an hour wind gust. Unfortunately here, folks, those winds are going to continue to crank on up this afternoon. So let's walk you through this as we get over the next few hours. Those winds do start to accelerate. This is around early to mid-afternoon with those winds cranking on up into that, again, 30 to 40 mile an hour range around the Denver area and throughout much of eastern Colorado. So again, mid-afternoon, you'll notice those winds pretty strong, and those winds do back on off tonight and through tomorrow. Those winds should be on the lighter side. So again, next, I'd say 6 to 7 hours when we'll be dealing with those strongest wind gusts statewide, and then after dark tonight, those winds do back on off. Now, this is out ahead of our next storm system, a very weak, fast-moving system that's off mainly to our north. That will lead to some rain and a little bit of mountain snow for us late tonight after dark and to early tomorrow morning. This will lead to maybe a slushy 1 to 3 inches of snow, 10,000 feet or above. Most of us, no big deal. I think the valley floors, including places like Steamboat Springs, probably looking at rain, so 6 to 7,000 feet. Even you're looking at rain there in the Yampa Valley as well as down through some of the other valleys there into northern Colorado. So again, mostly a rain event for the lower elevations of the mountains, and the highest elevations, again, 10,000, 10,000 feet or above, you may end up with a slushy 1 to 3 inches of snow by tomorrow morning. And as quickly as this storm system arrives, it departs, and that will leave behind a cooler, drier, and more importantly, less windy day for tomorrow. So temperatures drop back to around 70 degrees. It's still breezy here in the Denver area, 10 to 20 miles an hour, but for most of us, those winds will be notably lighter than they were today. So that's the good news. Those winds that we're dealing with today and that very high fire danger, it does back off for tomorrow, and it should also for your Thursday as well. But unfortunately, Friday, just looking ahead a little bit, Friday looks like a very nasty fire day as well, with those temperatures that could be really spiking on up. Temperatures for tomorrow, about 70 for us here in Denver, 80s in the southern Colorado in that 7-day forecast. Low to mid 50s for us by the weekend, but again, all eyes, I think, on Friday when we could be looking at exceptionally high fire danger. It looks much windier than today, and it looks perhaps a bit warmer as well, highs around 80 degrees. And again, some of those dangerous fire conditions in store as we get towards the end of the week and into the weekend. So again, fire danger, dry weather continues to be our big story. We do get a few potential raindrops here in the Denver area this weekend, but unfortunately, I wish I could tell you otherwise. It just does not look like a big deal at this point. I wish we had more rain this weekend. If we got a good dousing rain, a half-inch of rain here in Denver, that would really solve a lot of our problems, at least for the next couple of weeks. But unfortunately, that is just not in the offing at this point. I'll have more details coming up for you at 9 News at noon. And Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin back in at the 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10 newscasts here on the 9 News family of networks. In the meantime, again, I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Stay safe out there and have a great rest of your Tuesday.